The vast empty plains surrounding Cheyenne, Wyoming, stretched endlessly under a canopy of diamond dust stars. A profound stillness reigned, broken only by the wind's mournful sigh across the sagebrush. It was a silence so complete, so ancient, it felt as though the world itself held its breath. Then, without warning, the heavens tore open. A brilliant, fiery streak, impossibly fast, impossibly bright, ripped across the obsidian canvas. This wasn't a fleeting meteor. It was a deliberate, controlled trajectory, a blazing arrow shot from an unseen bow. It left a temporary glowing scar against the timeless stars, momentarily eclipsing the moon and painting the frozen landscape in hues of orange and crimson before vanishing as abruptly as it appeared. Only the memory of its impossible passage and a deeper, echoing silence remained. Imagine standing beneath that sky, witnessing such an event, the primal awe, the immediate, chilling confusion that would grip your soul. What was it? Where did it come from? This isn't just a story about a light in the sky. It's about the moment humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos is irrevocably shattered. If you're captivated by stories of the unexplained and human courage, hit that subscribe button now and join our journey into the unknown. Miles from that searing celestial event, nestled on the quiet outskirts of Cheyenne, lived Jake. A weathered cowboy, his face a map of sun-baked lines and quiet contemplation, Jake was a man of routine, of the land. His days unfolded with the predictable rhythm of ranch life, mending fences, tending his small herd, the comforting creak of saddle leather. His home was simple, sturdy, a testament to a life lived close to the earth, untroubled by the frantic modern world. His deep connection to the rural landscape was evident in every calloused hand, every knowing glance at the horizon. Jake wasn't one for grand adventures, preferring the solace of his own patch of Wyoming. His trusty, albeit old, Mustang, a relic of chrome and steel, sat patiently in his driveway, a symbol of his independent spirit, ready for mundane errands, never for a chase into the cosmic unknown. But tonight, that predictable rhythm was shattered. Jake, having stepped outside for a final check of the night sky, had witnessed the impossible blaze. He stood frozen, the cold forgotten, his breath catching. His initial shock quickly gave way to an inexplicable pull, a deep-seated curiosity overriding his usual caution. The fiery trail wasn't a typical meteor. It was too controlled, too bright, too deliberate in its descent. It had sliced through the atmosphere with a purpose that resonated deep within his bones. A gut feeling, raw and undeniable, told him this was something truly extraordinary, something that defied every explanation. He knew, with a certainty that bypassed logic, that he had to follow it. This wasn't just a light show, it was a summons. With a sudden, almost reckless surge of adrenaline, Jake strode to his Mustang. The roar of the old engine, usually a familiar comfort, now sounded like a primal cry, breaking the profound silence. He fumbled with the ignition, the V8 coughing to life, spewing a plume of white exhaust. Headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the deserted highway stretching before him, an asphalt ribbon into the vast unknown. The fading, lingering glow of... The aerial phenomenon was his only guide, a ghostly beacon on the distant horizon. He pushed the old car to its limits, the speedometer needle trembling as the Mustang devoured the miles. The desolate plains, usually a source of peace, now felt like an endless, watchful expanse, drawing him further into the darkness, towards a destination he couldn't fathom, driven by a curiosity that bordered on obsession. As Jake sped onward, the atmosphere subtly shifted. The oppressive stillness intensified, growing heavy, almost electric. A faint, unusual light appeared on the horizon, not the flickering orange of a wildfire, but something entirely different, alien, and strangely subdued. The air grew unnaturally quiet, the wind's mournful whispers replaced by a profound, almost suffocating hush. An unsettling sense of unease began to creep into Jake's mind, a primal instinct warning him of something profoundly out of place. Yet it was mingled with an intense, almost feverish anticipation. He was close. He knew it. The discovery was imminent, hanging in the frigid air like a promise. His world, the quiet, predictable world of Jake the Cowboy, was about to be irrevocably altered, forever changed by what lay ahead in the Wyoming night. The faint light Jake had seen on the horizon solidified into something truly bizarre as his old Mustang sputtered to a halt. Not a raging inferno, not a meteor crater, but a silent, almost serene anomaly. Embedded partially in the frozen, cracked earth was an object of profound, unsettling darkness. It was perfectly smooth, an obsidian monolith that seemed to drink the meager light of the approaching dawn, reflecting nothing. A faint, internal glow pulsed from deep within its seamless surface, a soft, almost imperceptible heartbeat of light that seemed to resonate with an unheard hum. It was unlike any rock, any metal, any structure Jake had ever encountered in his decades on the plains. This was no ordinary find. This was a piece of the impossible, dropped right into his quiet world. A profound shock rippled through Jake, leaving him breathless, his cowboy hat still firmly on his head, yet his mind reeling. Disbelief warred with the undeniable reality before him. He unlatched the truck's door, the squeak echoing in the pre-dawn stillness, and stepped out onto the cold ground. Every instinct screamed danger, a primal warning to retreat, yet an overwhelming, insatiable curiosity pulled him forward. He approached cautiously, his boots crunching on the frozen dirt, his hand instinctively reaching out. The object felt cold, a deep, pervasive chill that seeped into his fingertips. Yet beneath that coldness, there was a subtle vibration, a vibrant, almost living energy. Its surface was impossibly smooth, like polished glass, but without the fragility, non-metallic, almost organic in its alien texture. It defied every known terrestrial law, a silent testament to something utterly beyond human understanding. He ran his calloused hand along its flawless curve, searching for a seam, a joint, a weld, anything that hinted at construction. But there was nothing. It was a singular, monolithic entity, forged from an unknown material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it appear as a void in the encroaching morning. There were no scorch marks on the earth around it, no debris, just the displaced soil where it had settled. This was no mere space junk, no random cosmic debris. Its deliberate perfection, its resistance to the violent impact it must have endured, spoke of intelligent design, of a purpose Jake couldn't begin to fathom. His mind, usually occupied with cattle and fences, raced, trying to reconcile this impossible object with his grounded reality. By whom or what was this crafted? The questions piled up, each one more bewildering than the last. As the first sliver of the sun painted the eastern horizon, casting long, stark shadows across the plains, Jake noticed them. Distant pinpricks of light, barely visible at first, slowly growing in number and intensity. Then a faint, almost imperceptible hum, growing into the distinct, if muffled, sound of engines. He strained his ears, and through the crisp morning air, he caught snippets of what sounded like radio chatter, crackling and distorted. A cold dread seeped into his bones, replacing the initial awe. He realized with a sickening lurch that his solitary, impossible discovery was no longer his secret. The silent impact, the strange glow, the energy it exuded, it must have registered on some sensor somewhere. He was being watched, and the world was closing in on his private miracle. A fierce, almost primal instinct to protect this incredible, alien find washed over Jake. It wasn't rational, but he felt a strange, undeniable connection to it, as if it had chosen him, a silent emissary arriving specifically for his eyes. He saw the encroaching lights, heard the growing sounds, and knew what was coming. He scrambled, desperate, trying to find anything to hide it, to shield it from the inevitable intrusion. He grabbed handfuls of dry brush and tumbleweeds, piling them clumsily around its base, then tore off his own worn denim jacket, draping it over a portion of the smooth, dark surface. It was futile, a child's attempt to hide the sun, but he was driven by an overwhelming, almost paternal need to safeguard the wonder he had encountered, to preserve its mystery for just a few more precious moments. The futile charade was cut short as the first of the black SUVs crested the distant ridge, followed quickly by others, an ominous convoy against the rising sun. Unmarked vehicles, then vans, descended upon the site with chilling efficiency. Men in dark suits, their faces grim and unreadable, spilled out, followed by others in full hazmat suits, moving with a practiced, urgent precision. The area was quickly cordoned off with temporary fencing and flashing lights, turning the tranquil plains into a buzzing, sterile zone. Jake stood frozen, his initial awe and protective instinct now replaced by a surge of anxiety and a deep-seated suspicion of these newcomers, these harbingers of officialdom. His quiet, predictable life, the rhythms of his ranch, the solitude he cherished, it was all irrevocably over, shattered by a silent visitor from the stars. The agents, sharp-suited and unsmiling, moved with an efficiency that belied the surreal nature of the situation. Jake found himself quickly, yet politely, ushered away from the dark, humming enigma. He was led to a makeshift tent, surprisingly sterile against the rugged Wyoming landscape, where he was offered coffee, a strange courtesy in an otherwise tense environment. Two individuals, one a stern woman with piercing blue eyes, the other a calm, almost academic-looking man, began their questioning. They spoke in measured tones, their professionalism a thin veil over the raw urgency and barely contained excitement that flickered in their gazes. Jake recounted his incredible journey, the fiery streak, the chase, the impossible object. Each word felt inadequate, a poor descriptor for the profound wonder and terror he'd experienced. He felt like a small cog, caught in a massive event, watching helplessly as his solitary discovery was officially secured and placed under intense, unyielding scrutiny. Then came NASA. Their arrival was a spectacle of precision and advanced technology. Large, specialized vehicles rumbled onto the frozen ground, disgorging teams of scientists and engineers, their faces etched with a mixture of grim determination and barely suppressed exhilaration. Their equipment, sleek and futuristic, hummed with a purpose Jake couldn't fathom. Dr. Eris Thorne, a woman whose reputation preceded her even in Jake's isolated world, took charge. Her initial scans, conducted with an array of exotic instruments, swiftly confirmed Jake's gut feeling. This was no ordinary meteor. The data she presented to her team, whispered in hushed, urgent tones, spoke of impossible density, unique energy signatures pulsing from within the object, and a composition unlike anything known to terrestrial science. It defied every law of physics they understood, a silent, dark monument to the unknown, utterly alien. Jake, despite being the one who found it, was now relegated to the role of an unwilling witness. He wasn't a suspect, but he was certainly not free to leave. He watched, mesmerized and horrified, as the temporary research facility sprang up around the object with astonishing speed. Floodlights pierced the perpetual night, generators hummed, and a constant flurry of activity enveloped the site. He observed the scientists, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of monitors, their expressions a canvas of fear, frustration, and profound fascination. He saw his own complex emotions mirrored in their eyes, the awe, the confusion, the dawning realization that their world, and indeed humanity's place within it, was about to be irrevocably altered. He was a spectator at the unraveling of everything he once believed. The object, however, proved an impenetrable enigma. Drills, designed to bore through alloys, whined uselessly against its seamless surface, their tips blunted. Energy beams, capable of vaporizing steel, merely dissipated into an invisible shimmer. Probes recoiled as if repelled. It remained inert, unyielding, a perfect dark monolith of resistance that mocked Earth's brightest minds. Its defiance amplified its alien nature, turning frustration into a burning desire for understanding, a conflict deepening with every failed attempt. News of the incident inevitably leaked, first as whispers, then as a torrent of speculation that swept through the community. Fear and excitement mingled. Rumors spread like wildfire. Alien invasion, a secret government weapon, a divine sign, or a hoax of unprecedented scale. Jake, the quiet cowboy, was suddenly thrust into the unwelcome spotlight. He became a local legend, a madman or a prophet, depending on who was telling the tale, his simple life shattered by the weight of a cosmic secret he could neither escape nor comprehend. Jake struggled with the immense pressure, feeling a profound responsibility for his find, yet utterly powerless. His familiar worldview, once solid, was now cracking, his simple life shattered. He yearned for the quiet plains, but was now inextricably linked to this cosmic mystery, a reluctant participant in humanity's first contact with the truly alien. Despite the intense questioning and the official decision to keep him at arm's length, Jake soon found himself unofficially integrated into the periphery of the burgeoning research team. His initial role was mundane, offering insights into the harsh local environment, the shifting winds, the subtle signs of an impending storm that the city-bound scientists often missed. But then, something unexpected began to happen. Jake, with his lifetime of observing the minutiae of the natural world, possessed a unique sensitivity. He'd notice a faint, almost inaudible hum emanating from the dark monolith when the sophisticated sensors registered nothing. He'd point out a subtle shift in the object's internal glow, a barely perceptible change in hue that the data logs dismissed as an instrument anomaly. These were observations born not of scientific training, but of an intuitive connection to the land and now to this impossible visitor. His quiet insights, initially dismissed, sometimes led to recalibrations, revealing patterns the high-tech equipment, left to its own devices, had overlooked. The object itself, while remaining stubbornly impenetrable, began to exhibit these subtle, almost imperceptible behaviors. Its surface, once uniformly dark, occasionally seemed to absorb light with a slightly different intensity, creating fleeting optical illusions. The faint internal glow, visible only in the deepest night, would sometimes pulse with an almost biological rhythm, a slow, deliberate beat that Jake swore he could feel in his chest even from a distance. Localized electromagnetic disturbances, minor enough to be dismissed as natural atmospheric interference, would spike erratically around it, causing static on communication lines and brief flickers in the floodlights. These anomalies, too subtle for the blunt instruments of direct scientific inquiry, hinted at an intelligence or purpose far beyond a mere crashed relic, a silent conversation with the cosmos that only Jake seemed to truly perceive. As days bled into weeks, the scientific team grew increasingly frustrated by their inability to understand, let alone penetrate, the object. The initial excitement began to curdle into a tense impatience. In response, the government tightened security even further, classifying all information, creating an impenetrable wall of secrecy around the site. Jake felt the suffocating weight of this suppression of truth, the growing chasm between the official, sanitized narratives being fed to the public and the bewildering reality he witnessed daily. He saw the scientists, once full of hopeful theories, now arguing vehemently over insignificant data points, their tempers frayed, their confidence eroding under the object's relentless enigma. Amidst this growing tension, Jake, surprisingly, began to form unlikely bonds. Dr. Lena Petrova, a brilliant young astrophysicist with an open mind and an infectious sense of wonder, often sought him out. She seemed to value his raw, unfiltered observations, finding a resonance with his awe that was missing in her more pragmatic colleagues. He also found a reluctant confidant in Agent Miller, a seasoned government operative whose initial skepticism slowly gave way to a grudging respect for Jake's unwavering honesty and quiet fortitude. These relationships offered Jake some much-needed solace, a conduit for his anxieties, and a shared space where the true, terrifying beauty of their discovery could be acknowledged without immediate dismissal. The presence of the object acted as a profound catalyst, stirring up both internal and external conflicts. Within the scientific community, theories clashed violently, each expert clinging to their own interpretation of the scant, confounding data. Government officials debated national security implications, weighing the risks of alien contact against the potential for unprecedented technological advancement. Meanwhile, the local community, fueled by rumors and misinformation, became increasingly divided, some seeing the object as a divine omen, others as an existential threat. Jake observed this microcosm of humanity's reaction to the unknown, reflecting on his own rapidly changing beliefs, realizing how fragile human understanding truly was. Through his persistent observation, Jake started to feel a deeper, almost empathic connection to the object. He sensed it was not hostile, but perhaps waiting, or perhaps even communicating in a way no one else understood. There was a profound stillness to it, a patient energy that belied its inert appearance. He felt a strange kinship, a whisper across the void that assured him it meant no harm. This deepening, almost spiritual connection fueled his desire to protect it, not just from human interference and the aggressive probes of science, but also from misinterpretation, from the fear and ignorance that threatened to obscure its true, profound message. He knew, with a certainty that transcended logic, that something extraordinary was about to unfold. The object, a silent, unyielding enigma for weeks, began to stir with profound shifts. Its internal glow, once a faint pulse, intensified dramatically, casting a vibrant luminescence from within its dark, seamless shell. Scientists, accustomed to its static defiance, noted the change with awe and alarm. Subtle energy readings, previously erratic, now stabilized, then spiked with alarming regularity, forming a rhythmic pattern suggesting deliberate purpose. It was no longer a passive artifact. It appeared actively engaging with its environment, absorbing unseen energies, processing data, perhaps preparing for something monumental. The air around it crackled with tangible energy, a low hum only sensitive instruments detected, yet everyone felt its insistent presence. The inert monolith was undeniably awakening. Desperate for a breakthrough, scientific teams, led by Dr. Thorne, redoubled efforts, pivoting from destructive analysis to tentative communication. They broadcast intricate radio wave sequences, mirroring complex mathematical patterns, hoping for a reciprocal signal. They projected elaborate light patterns, mimicking astronomical charts and universal constants, onto its surface, searching for reaction. Audio frequencies, from infrasound to ultrasonic pitches, were directed at the object, hoping to elicit a vibrational response. Each attempt met with impenetrable silence, the object absorbing every input without acknowledgement. Failures mounted, deepening frustration and emphasizing the profound alienness of its potential intelligence. It spoke a language utterly beyond human comprehension, a silent dialogue of cosmic indifference baffling the brightest minds. Jake, observing from the periphery, felt increasing unease with the scientists' approach. Their logical, systematic methods felt entirely wrong for something so inherently mysterious. His intuition whispered the object wasn't a puzzle for equations, but a presence understood with something far more primordial. He believed they were approaching it incorrectly, forcing a human framework onto an alien mind. Driven by a powerful, almost spiritual urge, he plotted. During a late-night shift change, when security patrols were predictable and floodlights cast long shadows, Jake saw his chance. Slipping past a distracted guard, he moved with silent grace, drawn by an irresistible pull towards the glowing monolith. As Jake approached the object, a profound shift occurred within him. The air grew thick with unseen energy, and a strange resonance vibrated through his being. He didn't touch it, but a torrent of images, feelings, and abstract concepts flooded his mind. Not words, but pure information. He saw swirling nebulae, distant galaxies, the birth and death of stars, and a sense of an ancient, vast intelligence spanning eons. There was no aggression, no threat, only overwhelming wisdom and serene observation. It was a fleeting vision, non-verbal communication bypassing language, imprinting itself directly onto his consciousness. This experience reinforced his unwavering belief. The object was sentient, benevolent, perhaps a messenger, not a weapon or relic. Jake retreated, reeling from the encounter, his mind a maelstrom of cosmic awe and human fear. Meanwhile, the government's patience, always thin, began to wear critically. Mounting costs, lack of progress, and escalating public scrutiny created immense pressure for a breakthrough by any means. Whispers of more aggressive, potentially damaging interventions circulated among high-ranking officials. Proposals for high-energy pulse attempts, focused sonic blasts, even controlled detonation scenarios. The debate over the object's true nature intensified into a furious, ideological battle. Was it a threat needing neutralization? A priceless gift to be unlocked? Or a passive probe to be reverse-engineered? Jake, burdened by his unique understanding, grew increasingly concerned for its safety, feeling a protective instinct strengthen. He knew, with chilling certainty, they risked something far beyond their comprehension. The object's activity, steadily escalating, now reached a critical, undeniable crescendo. Its internal glow pulsed with almost blinding intensity, turning the research facility into a kaleidoscope of shifting light and shadow. Rhythmic energy readings spiked off the charts, overwhelming robust sensors. A low, resonant hum, once subtle, now permeated the very air, vibrating through the ground and rattling temporary structures. It was no longer a hum, but a deep, resonant thrum emanating from the core of the earth, signaling an imminent, major event. The atmosphere at the site became charged with primal terror and immense, unbearable anticipation. Every scientist, soldier, and official present knew, without doubt, something truly monumental. Redefining reality was about to happen. The object, which had for so long been an inert, unyielding enigma, now thrummed with a terrifying, escalating energy. The subtle pulses Jake had observed, the faint internal glow, had intensified beyond anything previously witnessed. A deep, resonant hum began to permeate the very air, vibrating through the frozen earth beneath their feet, rattling the flimsy research trailers, and causing a visceral unease in every soul present. Scientific instruments, once the pride of NASA's elite teams, went utterly haywire, their screens flashing with unintelligible data or simply going black, overwhelmed by the sheer, unbridled energy discharge. The temperature around the monolith dropped sharply, then spiked as if the very laws of physics were bending to its will. Then, the true climax began. The object's dull, dark surface, which had absorbed light so perfectly, started to glow with an unbearable brilliance. It wasn't merely reflecting light, it was generating it, an internal fire radiating outwards, casting strange, shifting shadows that danced like phantoms across the desolate plains. The perfectly seamless exterior, which had resisted every probe and drill, began to ripple and shift. Not opening like a conventional door, but rather flowing like liquid metal, revealing intricate, luminous patterns that pulsed with an inner light, geometric designs of breathtaking complexity that defied human artistry. Within these shifting patterns, internal mechanisms, crystalline and impossibly delicate, rotated and aligned, humming with a sound that seemed to bypass the ears and resonate directly in the mind. Suddenly, from the heart of the transforming object, a colossal, ethereal projection erupted. It wasn't a solid structure, but a holographic display of staggering scale and detail, a light-based construct that seemed to encompass the entire night sky. It was a map, not of Earth, but of the cosmos itself, swirling galaxies and nebulae rendered in impossible clarity, but overlaid with a network of luminous threads connecting distant star systems, like an ancient cosmic highway. Then the imagery shifted, morphing into a chronological record of an ancient civilization, depicted through a cascade of light and sound that conveyed emotions, technologies, and a history spanning eons. It was a blueprint, not just for advanced technology, but for an entirely new understanding of energy, consciousness, and the very fabric of reality. It was a profound philosophical insight into the nature of existence itself, conveyed not in words, but in pure, undeniable information that flooded their senses. The government agents, hardened by years of dealing with national security crises, and the brilliant scientists, whose minds had been trained in skepticism and empirical data, were struck speechless. Their fear, their scientific doubt, their very perceptions of reality were utterly overwhelmed by pure, unadulterated awe. Some, unable to process the magnitude of the revelation, simply fell to their knees, their faces upturned to the impossible light. Others stared, rigid with disbelief, their minds struggling to reconcile this cosmic truth with everything they had ever known. This discovery was not merely about a new species or a revolutionary technology. It was about the fundamental redefinition of humanity's place in the universe, an instantaneous shattering of their anthropocentric worldview. Jake, standing closer than he should have been, his intuition his only guide, experienced the revelation most profoundly. The light seemed to envelop him, and the cascade of information flowed not just into his eyes and ears, but directly into his consciousness. He received a more direct, intuitive understanding, a profound connection to the ancient intelligence that had crafted this marvel. His worldview, already cracking from the initial encounter, now shattered completely, only to reform in an instant, expanded beyond imagination. He understood something fundamental about the universe, a truth both terrifying in its scope and achingly beautiful in its complexity. He saw not just the object's purpose, but the vast, interconnected tapestry of life across the cosmos. As abruptly as it began, the projection retracted, the intense brilliance of the object slowly receding, its luminous patterns fading until the seamless, dark surface returned to its quiescent, enigmatic state. The low hum died down, and the instruments, after a final chaotic burst, settled back into their normal, yet now utterly meaningless, readings. The silence that followed was deafening, a vacuum where the impossible symphony had been, filled instead with the crushing weight of this new, impossible truth. The world, Jake knew with an absolute certainty, was no longer the same. Humanity had received its message, and there was no turning back. The immediate, overwhelming awe slowly receded, leaving behind a profound, almost incapacitating silence. The air, once thrumming with impossible energy, now felt thin, fragile, burdened by the weight of an unbelievable truth. No one spoke. The government agents, usually so composed and authoritative, looked utterly lost. Their power and control evaporated in the face of cosmic truth. NASA scientists, their instruments now stubbornly inert and their empirical data rendered meaningless, exchanged glances of bewildered wonder and dawning fear. The object, quiescent once more, pulsed faintly with an internal light, a silent testament to the undeniable, universal message it had delivered. Humanity had just received an education of unimaginable scope, a cascade of information that defied all terrestrial understanding, yet resonated with an ancient, universal wisdom that shook them to their core. The initial panic was gone, replaced by a dawning, terrifying clarity about the true nature of the universe. No longer merely an anomalous crash site, the object had transcended its physical form to become something far greater. It was now a profound artifact, an irrefutable monument to intelligent life beyond Earth, a silent lecturer from the stars. Its true nature, its precise origin, and the full intent of its complex message would undoubtedly be debated for centuries, fueling countless scientific papers, philosophical treatises, and theological arguments across every culture. But its mere existence, and the brief, overwhelming glimpse it offered, had irrevocably reshaped human scientific and philosophical understanding, shattering old paradigms. Plans were already forming, unspoken but understood, to encase it, to study it with unprecedented global resources, to perhaps even transform the Cheyenne Plains into a site of global pilgrimage, a new nexus of cosmic inquiry and existential reflection. It was no longer the object, it was the revelation. Jake, the quiet cowboy who had simply followed a trail of fire in the night sky, was irrevocably changed. His journey, which began with a simple, impulsive act of curiosity, had redefined his entire being, his very soul. He was no longer just a man of the land, tending to his cattle and his familiar routines. He was a witness to humanity's greatest discovery, a reluctant prophet carrying the weight of an impossible, beautiful truth. His quiet life, his comfortable anonymity, was gone forever, shattered by the unfiltered light of cosmic knowledge. Yet, in its place, he found not despair or madness, but a profound new understanding, a purpose born of witnessing the universe's vastness and interconnectedness. He was a man reborn under alien stars. The revelation had ripped open the fabric of human perception, tearing away the comforting veil of ignorance. The implications for humanity were staggering, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once. It opened up not just new possibilities for technology or understanding, but new fears about our profound insignificance and a vast unknown future stretching out before us into the cosmic void. The horizon of human knowledge, once thought to be a distant but reachable line, had dramatically expanded into an infinite, star-strewn abyss. The universe was not merely stranger and more magnificent than previously imagined. It was alive, teeming with intelligence, and profoundly interconnected in ways we had only just begun to grasp. Our place in it was both smaller and infinitely more significant than we had ever dared to dream. Jake did eventually choose to return to his ranch, to the familiar rhythms of the land, to the comforting scent of sagebrush and the vast open sky, but he carried the universe within him. The vast plains of Wyoming, once his entire world, now felt like a tiny speck in the cosmic tapestry he had glimpsed. He became a quiet advocate for understanding, a reluctant guardian of the truth, often speaking in parables that only hinted at the profundity he had experienced, never fully able to articulate the enormity of it. He was simply a man, forever marked by the day the stars came to Cheyenne, a living testament to humanity's first true encounter with the beyond. His story became a local legend, a whispered tale of profound personal growth in the face of the cosmic, a living bridge between the earthly and the celestial, forever changed by the fire in the sky. The human spirit, in its boundless capacity for wonder, fear, and adaptation, had faced the ultimate unknown and survived, albeit utterly transformed. Some mysteries we now understood with chilling clarity were not meant to be solved in a laboratory, but to challenge us, to expand our consciousness, to push the very boundaries of what it means to be alive and intelligent. This was not an ending, but a new beginning, a galactic doorway flung wide open. The journey to comprehend our place in this newly revealed cosmos had only just begun, and it promised to be the greatest adventure of all. What do you think lies beyond our horizon? What secrets do you believe the universe still holds, waiting for us to discover? Share your thoughts, your theories, your wildest dreams in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring the incredible, mind-bending stories that redefine our world, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click that notification bell.